Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, 6 Drupal Decoupled Misconceptions Holding You Back. We're excited to have you here again. Joining me is Jesus Manuel Olivas, co-founder and CEO of Octahedroid. How are you, Jesus?
Good, thanks. I'm glad we are here. Let's talk about a little some of the misconceptions we have found or hear from our clients whenever we talk about decoupled implementations.
That's right. Let's right dive in. I'm just going to make a quick summary of what we'll cover today. First, we'll tackle some common misconceptions about Drupal decoupled from installation to API complexity. Then we'll move on to how Drupal decoupled enhances the editorial experience. And finally, we'll explore some side benefits of Drupal decoupled, like leveraging modern front-end tools and improving collaboration. But before we start with the first misconception, I wanted to give some context to the people to understand more about Drupal decoupled and how does it fit in this technological landscape. Jesus, what does decoupled actually mean in the context of Drupal?
Well, decoupled means separating backend and frontend. Think about using Drupal only for the storage and serving the API. And instead of using the Drupal theming system, Twig and jQuery, use modern front-end tools for that part. Think about using React or something from the React ecosystem, could be something like Nix or Remix. But again, the whole idea is having separation from as using Drupal only for storing the data and entering the data and using a front-end modern tool for publishing and visualizing that information.
Okay, that sounds pretty attractive, but how does Drupal decoupled fit into the current digital landscape? I mean, who would want to use something like what you are describing?
Well, in the end, it's companies that really want to provide, more like dynamic, more appealing front-end implementations. Big companies who wants to deliver their application to multiple channels. Think about having a single application that you can provide content and expose that content to mobile, to web, like TVs, or maybe to talk to an AI. So think about having if you need something for distributing to multiple channels, going decouple, it's API first or decouple, it's a good thing. Maybe also if you want to provide like appealing or nicer look and feel front-end implementation, it also makes sense to using something like that for you, like a more modern tool set. Think about again, it's
Right.
I also always say there's nothing wrong with Drupal, but think about it. It's either your front-end people want to use like jQuery or React.
Mm, okay. Um, Maybe now people would be wondering, like, what would be the concerns of the organizations that want to use this decoupled architecture? Like, it sounds pretty appealing, like it sounds functional and actually very useful, but what would be like the main concerns, or why some organizations maybe I don't know, like not that sure of actually going decoupled or following a more traditional CMS architecture? Like, what are these concerns from your
Well,
perspective?
I think what we hear the most, it's probably complexity. And is this going to be like more complex than the
Mm,
usual like standard site, or maybe it's gonna cost more? That's
yeah.
another, question we always have. And because managing two different systems at some point introduce some complexity. Again, it helps you to resolve some problems or some situations, but it also introduces some complexity that's, it's fully, you can manage that. That's not a big, problem, right?
Mm,
And now that you have two systems, you need to maintain two systems and whatever. But again,
mm,
it's a matter of maybe having, a little more knowledge in certain areas. But most of the hosting providers will also take care of that complexity for you. Another concern we have here about it, like performance, my site is going to scale, it's going to
mm,
perform better or not, now that we have two systems to worry about. But in the end, you still have the same mechanism for caching, CDN, distributing your
mm,
content and your pages and assets. So again, you can still use a lot of the same, technologies you use to resolve those situations. And another concern that we hear about is like once you move away from Drupal taking care of the whole, the whole thing, the people think about, worry about, what about the editorial experience? What about like
Mm.
previews? What about, things like access control? And we will talk about during this webinar, but I can give you like a preview on those things. Is like, you don't have to worry about those. You can still take advantage of most of the features that you really, use with Drupal.
Right, right. Yeah, like people have this preconception about Drupal decoupled that they are going to lose everything that they actually find useful in Drupal, and it's going to be very costly and maybe complex. But that's actually why we want to tackle this specific misconception. So let's dive right in into the first misconception about Drupal decoupled that you were talking about. The first one and foremost, the most the one that people encounter right away is uh, installing and configuring Drupal is complicated. What do you think about that? And why is it a misconception?
Well, the
What
answer
makes
is it's yes, probably, and but it's true and it's not. It's unlike the other CMSs like that provide like one-click installs. Long time Drupal hasn't provided anything like that, but now it's changing. Now you have like more like easier ways to install, and there's a lot of pieces involved into a Drupal site. So it's, there's Composer for managing, dependencies. There is Drush for the CLI, and most of the tutorials or things you saw about Drupal just take you directly to those places instead of like
right?
providing you like a one-click install. And there's some, there's some initiatives on Drupal for trying to move into that direction.
Mm,
And even we have in our like decoupled Drupal project a way to deploy Drupal like one click, so you can
yeah.
try front end and back end at the same time. So again, regardless if did you have like two systems, you can do that like easily. I will say easily, right? Last famous words. But again, it's been, maybe Drupal is not as simple as other CMSs, but it's not that complicated neither.
Right. Yeah, and the idea I think that of making this project Drupal decoupled is to make it easier for people that actually have to find a workaround how to set up the Drupal ecosystem, because it's very common that phrase to say like once you install Drupal, congratulations, you have nothing, because actually one of the most powerful features about Drupal is this customization, no? But we want to make it easier for people to actually get into the ecosystem and start building.
Yeah,
But
exactly. So we just want to remove the friction of like having a server, having a database, having, all the different pieces in or subsystems. So again, by using something like Drupal decoupled, you can have that like right away, just one click, same as the other CMSs.
right, right. And going into the same topic, like what does a typical setup look like now versus like 5 years ago? Has it changed a lot? You were saying that they are um, implementing new features to make it easier, but was it really different from the past, or what's
Well,
your
same thing, yes and no. Drupal has been changing a lot. The UI installer is in there for so long, but now it's getting better. It's getting better. It's getting
mm,
more polished. It looks more like modern. But in the end, something that we can talk about that has been changing or providing like a better interface for doing that, it's something called recipes. Recipes is a
mm,
project that simplifies, Drupal installation and configuration. Long story short, it allows you to define and share some pre-configured
mm,
settings
yeah.
and but not only settings. So you can set like a module, and also, that module could be like pre-configured, but it also not like a single module. You can have like a set of modules. Think about, in the past we used to have something called profiles, but there's
Mm,
have some other complications. But recipes is a way to pre-pack, or like provide a preset of configuration for spinning
right.
up Drupal sites.
Yeah, like instead of you configuring everything, you already have this recipe. That's what the name. That's why
Yeah,
it's named like that, and it makes it easier for people that actually don't know their
yeah,
way around Drupal, right?
yeah. You can have a recipe for like a blog inside. So you have a
Mm,
recipe, it's a pre-configured set of features. So instead of going to Drupal and installing Drupal and having to create those content types manually and taxonomies or whatever, so this recipe is it's already prepackaged with all the needs for that particular feature. You can have recipes for events or any other like site configuration.
Right, right. So, yeah, it sounds like it has become easier. And actually, we want to make it easier for people with this project, Drupal Decoupled, to get into the Drupal ecosystem, no? But let's go to another misconception. It's number two. It's creating content types is tedious. What do you think about that? Or why do you think people find content type creation so overwhelming?
Well, it's been, I mean, so Drupal provides you with a graphical interface for doing those tasks, right? But that
Yeah,
doesn't mean that task is not repetitive and time consuming.
of course.
And probably, I won't say problem, but one of the situations you have with Drupal, it's probably you have way too many options. So there's too many options to configure when you are adding something or configuring a content type or adding fields. And it's the interface has been like improved a lot lately as well.
Hmm.
So a lot of those steps are being now, way better than the past. In the past, you have to like click like several times and submit several forms. Now it's getting better. Things are getting more dynamic. So another couple of things that make this little more complicated than it should is there is a lot of like again complexity in the UI, but there's not like clear best practices how to do this, like naming convention, things like that. It's
Yeah.
more of the decision of the people that building this site. It's always good to have those recommendations and best practices on paper so you can share with your team and make it easier for them, all of them, to use the same approach. So again, so whenever you go at different content types, you don't see like different ways of building things. It's
Yeah.
probably the same power and freedom that Drupal gives you can get you in troubles at some point, right?
Yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah, like with a big power comes a great responsibility.
You know, as
And you
Uncle Ben.
exactly. So you were mentioning AI. Has AI changed a lot this process, or how do you see it fits into these content types creation?
Again, funny thing, Drupal is also improving in that area. So again, as people say, the drop is always moving, and Drupal
Mm,
is been implementing a lot of AI features. And the answer is yes, AI can help a lot on this, and can also help you on providing you and taking advantage of analyzing previous content types existing on the system and suggest you how to like connect them. If you might be creating a blog or something else, it can read your system and understand there's some taxonomies and suggest you to reuse those instead of like creating each one again. It
mm,
also can help you, suggesting you better naming conventions. So again, if you provide a good, context on your AI implementation, you can just suggest, make sure you use this naming convention, like because naming things is hard, we all know. Again,
yeah.
long story short, can help you with consistency and making sure everything is standardized. And
Mm.
again, make it easier for people to collaborate in seeing the same definition all over the place.
Yeah, and you were mentioning that you actually don't need to create new content types always. Like, what when do you actually need to create them? Like, when do you actually need to get into this process?
That's a good question. It's whenever you need to express something new or something different. Think about you have a piece of content that has a unique structure, so different field sets or different, set of like fields or components that you want to show on that page.
Mm,
When another reason that I see for creating a content type, it's whenever a piece of content requires a different set of permissions, like custom permission, access control, things like that. Sometimes you need to change things a little. When this content type, it also has a different life cycle. Maybe, the flow will be different for this particular piece of content, a different team. It's going to handle that content management, or maybe maybe need to require some translation or different, team for doing that. So whenever something changes in the life cycle of the workflow, and another, pieces whenever you want to like reuse content, sometimes for you need to use a content that ain't going to change, so or you ain't going to reuse, so you can use like a paragraph or just like custom field, whatever. But maybe when you need to reuse something, maybe that's a node that you can, share across, or a block that you can share across different content types. So again, think about when this is like some main differences in this particular content, and those differences could be some of the ones that I mentioned.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's not always the case that you need to start to create these content types. No, it's about very specific cases. No,
Yeah.
and now you have more tools to actually do it. No, and I think that the idea is also that we little by little. Tell me if I'm wrong. We're going to incorporate some of those things with Drupal Decoupled. Is that in the roadmap of the project?
Yeah. In the end, again, think about this. It just making your life easy. When you have like way too many content types, way too many, paragraphs or blogs, or your content structure start getting messy. So again, you need to like be careful for once you are introducing a new content type. Think about it. It's a new content, is a new contract with the front end that you're gonna start, because the team is gonna use that content somehow, somewhere. So if you change something, the front end will be affected. So just you need to make sure you don't go like that. You know, you just take care about when adding, or changing the structure of your content.
So now let's dive into the third misconception. The API is full of Drupalisms. What do you have to say about that in regards with the
I
Drupal's
will
API?
say probably yes. And well, and it is, Drupal out of the box came with JSON API,
Mhm.
and the way the JSON API exposed data and nested elements and relations. When you try to use that, you'll see all of Drupalisms embedded, like related entity and naming convention and things like that. And as a front end developer, that language is probably way too verbose. It's full of
Mm,
Drupal specific context. It's it's complicated, and somehow as a front end developer, you need to understand how Drupal it's built somehow, right?
mm,
Kind of
yeah.
take you to that direction. And it also, it's not probably that simple to configure.
Mm,
And again, querying data, it's a little more complicated than it should, because you have to like include this with DOS fields, things like that. Think about like the way it serves you data. It's more complicated that it should. And
yeah.
again, there's nothing wrong with that. That's a spec, and that's how it works. It's just somehow, again, force you as a front-end developer to understand more about Drupal than you probably should.
Yeah, of course. But actually, there's also a solution to it. Like GraphQL, maybe it maybe can help with a lot of these things that you are talking about. How does GraphQL simplify API management?
Well, the way the graphical module it's built, it was with that, idea on mind, trying to remove some of the Drupalisms on the
Mm,
API. And used to be clear, GraphQL version 4, it's different than version 3. Version 3 out of the box exposed data from Drupal.
mhm,
And the way that was exposed, it was with some of those Drupalisms. And
mm,
once version 4 came out, didn't expose any no data at all. It's just like the foundations for building something. And this is when the graphical compose module is born, and allowed you to simplify the process, remove some of these Drupalisms on the naming convention, on the how objects are related to between each other, and how this simplify management. Well, GraphQL provided with a single endpoint. It's easier to write queries because you have like autocomplete, like out of the box on the playground inside Drupal. It provides you with a area that you can start clicking around in typing things. It's fully typed, and self-documented. So it means you can, on your VS Code, you can also have this autocomplete. Think about like TypeScript for your queries.
Okay.
And it uses a single fetch for requesting things. So you can request like nested data on a single request. So you don't have to like work around those things like get this resource, then with those IDs, give me this other resource or this others or this other pieces of content that belong to a different, content type or piece of content, whatever. So I mean, there's also workarounds for JSON API. What I want to mention is out of the box, that's how GraphQL works. And it means like it's easier for front-end people to use GraphQL because they already know how GraphQL works. There's an spec as
Yeah.
well. So people outside of the Drupal world already know how to use GraphQL.
Yeah, so maybe it's easier for someone that actually it's like an expert in front end, modern front end technologies, uh, like to onboard him on a project or onboard them on a project because they already have this expertise and they don't have to understand all of these Drupalisms or all of these Drupal contexts, no?
Yeah. Maybe they
Yeah,
already use GraphQL in some other like links and some other like CMS like Contentful, Sanity, or any of the others.
right. Yeah. And that's why we are using GraphQL with the project of Drupal Decoupled, no? To make life easier for front-end developers. Is there any other practical benefit for using GraphQL?
You can say probably, well, you can improve the time to market when building, and therefore
Mm,
reduce the cost because again, you can
yeah,
onboard people, you can onboard like specialized people on front end. They don't have to worry about knowing, front end how Drupal do the front end or API how Drupal do the API. It's just more like you can hire specialized, team members.
right. Yeah, and that makes life easier for the company, less costly, as you said, faster implementation, and also it accelerates
And
time to market.
And you can have that people involved in different projects other than Drupal projects, right? Because an
Exactly.
agency, sometimes you have different clients with different needs, and Drupal is not always the answer for them.
Yeah, yeah, it varies on the project. But going back to Drupal and in general, one of the biggest problems of these decoupled architectures, it's sometimes or many times um, it's not a great editorial experience. No, like talking from my experience with headless CMS, that's another misconception. Editing content is not a great experience. And what is frustrating from the content side, it's that basically, as a content marketer, you need to publish a lot of things very quickly and also with certain. The idea is to make an appealing content for the people that is reading the content, and sometimes it happens that when you are editing content in these decoupled implementations or headless implementations, you don't really see how your content is going to be showed to other people, no? Or how what is the final product, no? So that's one of the biggest frustrations from content teams and talking with other content marketers, that sometimes you don't know how your content is going to look like, or if you need to edit something, sometimes you are afraid that it's going to break something in the in the code. So you depend a lot of developers and they helping you, and it's not as easy because, as you said, they are in other projects, they are working on other stuff. So sometimes there are a lot of bottlenecks. But what do you think about this misconception, and how are we tackling this
Yeah.
misconception with Drupal decoupled?
And well, and there's always, I mean, there's now you have to think about it. Now you have two different systems, front end and back end, and you need something to glue them together. And this is
Exactly.
what Drupal Decouple can help you to do. So the way we build Drupal Decouple project, it's provide you with the right tooling for gluing things together. So provide you with capabilities for showing you how front end is gonna look inside your Drupal site where you are building the content. So it means
Right.
you can go right to the page within the CMS,
Hmm.
search for the content that you want to change, and open the content and see how actually looks like on the front end side of things,
Right.
through this, visual, I mean, this iframe, right? Which is, and you can change things on Drupal, and you can save those things, and you can see those, those changes immediately.
Yeah.
And you don't even have to save that. You are working on a better improving the experience. So you're typing things, and you can see how those, keystrokes change the content immediately. So we are providing with that experience as well. So long story short, you need to glue things together, but fortunately we have Drupal Decoupled to help you on that particular task.
Yeah, and it actually has a lot of impact in the editing workflows. And just as you were saying about the front end developers, it actually frees time from content editors, like having to talk with developers to make little changes or little tweaks to the content. And also, like sometimes the implementation of a simple block can take hours, but with this iframe or this pre-visualization of the content, it's actually easier. You don't need to depend on any developer, and actually you can finish publishing whatever you were gonna publish and go on with another task, no? Because just as the development world, the content world is you benefit from being fast, no? Like so to shipping things fast and getting to the people that wants to know about your product, your company. So it actually it doesn't only affect like editing workflows. It's more about like the company's goals, no? Because at the end of the day, that's what the marketing team does. Is actually promoting the company, helping them create this useful content. And when you have tools like this, it's way much easier, and it gives you more autonomy. It empowers you in a way.
And helps you on, I mean, on collaborating with other team members. So just long story short, what is easier? Go to a page that you don't see how the content is gonna look like, go to a form, enter things, save, submit the page, and then
Yeah.
after that, going to somewhere else and see how this looks like, or just go to a page, you drag and drop components, entering things on boxes and see those changes, I mean, immediately on your page without having to like save and submit and things like that. So again, it's in that help. I mean, that helps a lot on the content editor experience, on the workflow. I mean, provide a better collaboration and it's time to market. It just gets improve a lot.
Yeah. And actually, that takes us to the next misconception that we already talked about a little bit right now. But the next one is no preview available for decoupled content. Um, at the end of the day, you don't only need to edit content in a easy way or without depending so much on developers. You also need to have these previews, because one of the things that content teams have to go through is revisions, no? Because your content sometimes also depends on a subject matter expert that actually goes through the content and verifies that what you are saying is true, or maybe the compliance team in other organizations, or even within the content teams, like sometimes a freelance writer or another content writer writes the blog, and the content manager, the head of content, has to review it. So these previews are very important for the content teams. But why do you think is so crucial, this preview, this content preview?
Well, as you mentioned, this is very important for accuracy, consistency, and efficiency of things, and making sure that all the workflows are in place. Again, it just helps for a better, collaboration among themes, and that's important in having that. And again, Drupal decouple, I mean, help you with all those features, and we will mention in a few.
Yeah, for example, you were mentioning about the preview iframe, no? That it allows you to see the changes in real time. But how does this preview iframe work in real time?
So long story short, it's just you are embedding your front end side, or the preview stage of your front end side
Yeah.
inside an iframe, inside the node view page, and it's pulling data from your API. But not only that, it also pulling data from the preview content, because this is something that Drupal called preview or preview page.
Mhm.
which basically pulls data from the temporary storage and not the Drupal node storage database. That's a Drupal thing that's been forever. And you can do that. You can just changing things without, and saving that, things like that, and it works. It also works. I mean, that preview works with revisions, with content moderation as well. So you can take advantage of all those features of Drupal like out of the box with Drupal
Yeah.
Decoupled. So you don't have to leaving those features behind if you go decouple.
Right, right. And what types of content can be previewed?
Any content on the system that you have like properly configured, like nodes, taxonomies, media, you know. Well, when I
Mm.
talk videos like images or whatever, again, it's the only thing you need to do is like properly configure on the system, expose on the graphical interface of the graphical compose module, going like clicking the, I want this field, enable this field and that, enable this paragraph or whatever. Anything that you expose will be able to be reused on those preview pages.
Right, right. So almost anything, right?
Yeah, anything that is content. And there's some pieces of configuration that can get exposed, like like form settings and fields like that we will talk in a few things,
Mm.
like like site settings module. So again, there's ways for exposing certain pieces of configuration depending of your needs as well.
Right, right. And well, with with that in mind, now we're going to the last Drupal decoupled misconception, that it's you miss important features like web forms. What key features do organizations worry about losing? I mean, we already talked a little bit about this. We are mentioning web forms in this example, but what else? What else do organizations worry about?
People tend to worry about, like preview, as I mentioned, like previews, like like revisions,
Mm.
like content moderation, access control, and web forms. But you can still take advantage of all those awesome features from Drupal. And just talking about forms and form submission, this is something we are used to like do a lot on sites, not only Drupal site, having forms, people enter data on those boxes, click submit, and send that data back to us. And that data could be like people registering for a campaign or a webinar, or maybe people want to download the white paper, just you name it, could be anything. And
Right, right.
there are different ways to achieve this in Drupal.
Mm.
And I would say this could be maybe having a form and posting that data to an external API, might be an Airtable, might be like an external CRM system. Another way it's having a custom mm, graphical mutation or custom controller that you post the data, and at that point you can get the data in a store either in a content type or do whatever you want to do that, or you can keep using web form, because
Mm.
this is something we have already, as a feature on Drupal Decoupled. So and I can tell you a little about how that
Yeah, yeah,
how,
yeah.
how
Like
that
that.
works.
That was my question. Like, how do they work in a decoupled setup, like Drupal decoupled?
Kind of similar as the other. You basically go to the web form UI, click boxes and create a form, adding fields. And once you have that ready, and definitely just make some configuration, who can submit, who can, access, whatever. Again, that's a Drupal thing, clicking boxes.
Okay.
And from there, you need to create your form, your UI form using like React. That could be either you hard code your form fields like manually by hand, or
Mm.
you can just implement a process for generating the form based on that form configuration. So you can use the GraphQL Compose web form module that allow you to pull for the form fields and settings based on the web form that you pre-configure on your Drupal site, and you can use that data for generate your form on the fly if you want to, right? So it's up to you. Either you want to like hard code it and have more control over what you have, or maybe use this a system for, like a library or something for automatically generate your form based on the settings that the system is providing you. And once you have the data, you can use the mutation that is provided by the module as well to post the data back. And once you have the data back on the submission, at that point you are again back to Drupal. So you can implement any handlers, posting to a CRM system, or taking a look at the form submission on the Drupal back office. So again, you are on Drupal world, so you can do anything
Yeah.
that you are used to do in the past.
Yeah. You are not that constrained as you may think, no? Because it's actually you go back to what you already know, no?
Exactly.
So basically, well, maybe just to round up, like the popul what are the popular features that are maintained, no? Because in general we think that, like we were saying, so you miss those important features, but it seems like mainly most of them you can have them without a problem, right?
Yeah, preview, revisions, content moderation, access control. In the end, things doesn't change that much. You can still taking advantage of Drupal and keep using it as a CMS.
Yeah, exactly. Because sometimes maybe you can have these security concerns, but you keep all this access control, no? Because you are using these models, simple auth, and all these authorization methods that you have in Drupal. So it doesn't change that much, right?
No, because whenever, when you use the simple auth module, it's what you end up doing. It's connecting, as a user with a certain role. So again, access control and all that is just the same.
Right, right.
Instead of logging through the Drupal form, you log into a different way, or by maybe you use client secret and client ID on your front implementation, and you act as an user with a certain role when you're interacting with the system. If at some point you need to have a login form, you can still do that through the module as well. So and at that point, you can have, a user login with a user and password that will recognize by the system. And once you are logging into the system, again, you also have access to to the roles and the permissions that user has.
Right, right. So yeah, so basically, I think well, we covered the main misconceptions, but now let's take a closer look at what side benefits do you have with. I mean, we already covered that all of these ideas that maybe people have that they are not really true, and we hope that they can actually use Drupal Decoupled. We're going to leave some links in the description to see by themselves how does it work. But exploring some side benefits of Drupal Decoupled, what do you think is one of the most important advantages of having Drupal Decoupled as a yeah, like using this decoupled architecture in Drupal?
Well, you can split, you can, do implement separation of concerns. You have like specialized people doing the front end, specialized people doing the back end. And again, that's, again, time to market it's also getting improved a lot. So there's again, and we can keep talking about this. There's again, I think the most important piece is you can have a specialized team doing certain tasks for that.
For example, maybe taking advantage of tools like front-end tools like React or maybe Next.js, any of these front-end frameworks that are really popular right now, and maybe they can also attract certain pro younger developers, no? That sometimes they are very intimidated maybe by the Drupal ecosystem or all of these Drupalisms, but they don't really need to know all of that because they just need to focus on their expertise, that is these front-end frameworks, right?
Yeah, and since you're using, Drupal through like GraphQL API, which contains less Drupalisms, they don't need to, you know, probably they don't need to know like Drupal like right away. They will at some point they will need to like understand Drupal better, and at some point they
Right.
will end up logging into Drupal to enter in some content. But long story short, they can start like easily on a project. And again, the React ecosystem, it's just huge. And you can take advantage of like multiple libraries, like think about this integrated with like modern libraries or tooling related to like feature flags or maybe personalization and things like that. It's easier on the React ecosystem, compared with jQuery.
Yeah, yeah, it's obsolete by now, no?
Well, I think version 4 is pretty much out, or it was recently, so it means it's not
It's not
dead.
that. Yeah, it's still kicking. But yeah, like these modern tools, these modern front-end tools, actually bring more capability or maybe more modern capabilities, no, that users are expecting right now and make it easier for developers to actually provide them, no? Which capabilities do you think these modern front-end tools bring to Drupal decoupled? Like we already talked about improving time to market and improving user experience. Would you mention any other
Well,
benefits?
I think I mentioned earlier, you can have access to a big pool of talent. You can have
Mm,
dedicated, specialized front-end developers that could work in your Drupal projects and other type of projects. It doesn't have to be like Drupal projects. And and
right,
again,
right.
and again, the ecosystem is just huge. The same way Drupal has a great ecosystem of modules. There is, the ecosystem of JavaScript and React. It's just huge. Just go to npm and see all of the packages and libraries.
Yeah,
Freely available. It's just huge, and you can build really impressive projects using those and taking advantage of those. That's the beauty of open source, isn't it?
right, right. Yeah, it's a lot of power at your fingertips, no? And at the end of the day, that also translates to another benefit that I want to talk a little bit about. It's like that building modern applications and design systems in general, no? What types of applications become possible once you unlock this decoupled architecture and you actually are working with this division of backend and front end?
As I mentioned, if you need to, you can log into Drupal, as a decouple. It means, and at that point, you can build anything, a dashboard. You
Mm,
can, access Drupal as an API, and you can fetch data. You can post data back using mutations. And we're talking only at this very moment, we're talking about a single API, but while building dashboards and even sites, it depends on the complexity. Sometimes you need to connect to like multiple APIs. You can do this. You can have this GraphQL API acting as a gateway, connecting like multiple data sources or multiple APIs, and build this, dashboard or application that can consume data from different places and you can use the data for, or build anything that you want to. And again, now that you have this, you decouple implementation, you have the ability for deliver your content and across like multiple channels, web, mobile apps,
yeah.
again, TVs, interacting with AI, as we
Mm,
mentioned, ACLI, you name it. You have the same, data source providing you content for any application, regardless of the channel that it's consuming it.
right, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like the benefits are endless, and what um, what I wanted to communicate to all people watching this webinar is that actually Drupal decoupled helps you unlock all of these benefits in a faster and more easier way, and also more accessible, because sometimes, like we were saying, it's very hard to get to a decoupled implementation in Drupal. But with Drupal decoupled, you have a one you are just one click away to have this pre-configured Drupal decoupled CMS, and it's actually it's something like it actually feels like magic because it's just one click, and it's very different from what the usual experience of Drupal is, no? And you have all of these um, benefits. But would you add any other thing that actually Drupal decoupled offers to people, or is there any other thing that you want to mention before we wrap
Sure.
up?
So you were mentioning like separation of concerns and the importance of that. Think about this. You can build, you can write, test your code, build like POCs and MVPs isolated one from the other. So it means, think about this. You want to build a design system. You don't need Drupal for building the design system. You can start working on the design system like right away without
Mhm.
needing of the backend. So you can do all that in a storybook. You can build those components, and once you're happy with those components, then you can start building that Drupal part. The content, the data structure piece of content. Again, so you can, by having those, again, specialized teams taking care of their own, all their own like tasks, they can work at their own pace, and at some point, once and when they need to collaborate, they can use things like Drupal Decoupled to connect or wire all the things together. And I think I mentioned earlier, like having a way to hire special talent for those
Yeah.
particular needs is also really important. And the maybe you will thinking, oh, maybe hosting it's more complicated because different subsystems. But in the end, the market it's already solved you that. There's a specialized and hosting providers for those, so it's one thing less to worry about.
Right, right. Yeah, so I think that pretty much covers these six misconceptions that we lined out at the beginning. But maybe just as a last question and to finish this webinar, what would you be your final advice for organizations considering Drupal decoupled? Is it for everybody, like um, people that just want to use Drupal or to learn Drupal? Would you recommend Drupal decoupled, or for which organizations do you think it makes more sense to use this decoupled implementation?
Well, the answer it's depend, right? It's like when
That's
people
it.
ask me how do I recommend Drupal decouple for everyone? No, I don't even recommend Drupal for every single implementation. So
Right.
it is depend on the project. If you have a team already of front-end developers that already know React pretty well, so you can definitely take advantage of that and decouple your system. Maybe you want to provide a really like dynamic experience, a more modern approach for experience for your decoupled site, that's the way to go. If you have like multiple web properties and you want to share the same design system across all of them, decouple makes sense. Again, it depends of the project, right? So it's
Right.
and decouple has different flavors like
Yeah.
static side, server side rendering, SPAs. It will depend on and that also will depend on the implementation. And
Right.
which advice that I give you, just give it a try to Drupal decouple. It's not as hard as it sounds. It's like a lot of the things you think you're gonna end up missing, it's not true. There's a lot of things already resolved on these. And if there's something lacking or that you want to see, just let us know. You can just contact us
Right.
and let us know so we can, discuss about your needs and see how can we help you, resolve those particular needs in your project.
Exactly. Yeah, I really encourage people to visit the Drupal decoupled site. Mainly to see this one-click preview. Like it doesn't take a lot of effort. It's just one click, and you're gonna see how does it work. And actually, you have different implementations. I think you have right now Vue and Next.js. So it's
Remix and
interesting,
Next.js.
and Remix and Next.js. So the idea is for them to preview all of these capabilities and to take a look into what it actually looks like and how they actually work with it, and see that they have all of these features that they are afraid of missing, no? That they are still there. So,
Yeah,
well,
definitely.
exactly.
And if they want to try on their local computers as well, they can just like get the project, just run one single command, and everything it will be like set up for you.
Yeah,
You at that point you will need DDEP or Lendo. It just depends up to you. What do you prefer? But that's it. It's just a matter of like running one single thing, and you will have the project in your local computer. So play around, so you can play around and modify things and see how the thing works.
yeah. Like I really encourage people to go to Drupal decoupled. We're gonna leave some links here, But before we wrap up, I'm gonna quickly recap the key takeaways from this webinar. Uh, in general, Drupal Decoupled simplifies the setup and reduces technical barriers. No, like it also leverages tools like Drupal recipes to make life easier for people in general using Drupal Decoupled. Um, there are also modern APIs like GraphQL, like streamlining the content management and API interactions. These AI integrations that help us with content types, it also are also available. And in general, one of the main benefits maybe for content and marketing teams is this enhanced editorial experience, no? With the iframe and the preview functionalities, it actually gives more autonomy to these content and marketing teams to do their work on their own. And in general, this decoupled architecture supports modern front-end frameworks, no? And making more dynamic and responsive applications, and also accelerating this time to market. And in general, this improves separation of content, of front end and back end. In general, it fosters better collaboration for all your team. No, like one of the things that I find very valuable about Drupal Decouple is that it's not only focusing on developers, it's not only focusing on content teams. It in general is like a solution to solve. Well, it solves this problem of sometimes miscommunication between teams, no, from front end and back end, and also like content and development teams. It it makes collaboration easier, no, and in a way that you don't have to. It doesn't take that much time and that much effort, and it can also be customized depending on what you need, no.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you would add anything else.
Yeah, and I think besides helping, removing the friction for setting up the, all this like thing. I mean, fortunately, we have recipes now that can help us building this for you, so you can give it a try. And again, remove the friction from doing the setup. Glue things together, so make easier the collaboration between back end and front end. And Drupal Decouple, it also take care of another set of people like content editors. So again, provide you with this drag and drop experience, so you can just drag components. Those components get
Yeah.
connected to the front end, so you can easily keystroke typing things and see those changes immediately, provide you with that preview experience. So again, it's kind of feels like magic. And
Yeah.
when you just give it a try and let us know what you think about it. But again, it's not only about developers, it's not only about like either front end or back end, but it's about seeing the content process as a team, it's full team, the one that is working on it. Our idea was, make it easier for anyone within the team to collaborate and do their part easily.
Yeah, 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 exactly. And well, if you are ready to take the next step, or if you want to see firsthand how Drupal Decouple works, try out the one-click pre-configured Drupal CMS in the Drupal Decouple. You are gonna see it right away once you go to the site. Again, we're gonna leave some links here. Also, if you want to know more, like follow our social media. We're constantly posting on LinkedIn and Twitter about the latest developments on this decoupled project. And basically, that would be all for today. We appreciate a lot of your time, and thanks a lot for joining us again. We look forward to seeing you in our next session. We're gonna continue talking about some uh, Drupal themes that we think you will find very interesting.
I will say Drupal and other CMSs.
Exactly, exactly. Little by little, we're gonna
I
go.
don't want to anticipate too much, but yeah.
Yeah, but
And but yeah, definitely we're gonna keep talking about Drupal. And not only here, I mean, we are going to be at Drupal. I will be at Drupal Camp Florida, and Jorge and Sebo will be at the DrupalCon Atlanta, and probably some other camps. Might be, I think, also Midcamp in Chicago. So yeah, I mean, it's either social network, this webinar, live at events. I mean, just let us know. I mean, what you think about, and you have any question, feel free
yeah,
to ask.
yes. if you are going to any of those events, like feel free to reach out. We would love to hear about your concerns, your questions, any suggestions that you have. At the end of the day, like we were saying, that's the magic of open source, no? Like collaboration and people like actually working together to make this project better. And also, we're very aware of all of these innovations that Drupal is working on. But the idea is to actually work together and actually take advantage of all of these open source benefits, right? So, but thank you very much again for joining us. We look forward to see you again in our next session. But until then, happy decoupling, and please try Drupal Decoupled. We have all the links below. And thanks for your time, Jesus.
Thank you all. Thank you
Uh,
as well, Flavio.
see you on the next one.